maximize that.
Thanks. Hello. Video. Hello, Kate. Welcome. You are muted currently, but you can unmute yourself. There's a button in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen if you'd like to say hello.
Here I am.
Here you are. Hello. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. I like your stage.
Thank you. We just finished it off like a month or so ago, so it's we're really excited to have this platform to be able to talk to teachers. So yeah,
It's awesome.
yeah.
I like
I have Allison here too. She wanted to say hi.
Hi, Kate.
Hey! How you doing, Mom?
Oh man, that'll never die.
I might have to put my dog away.
I'll while you're not talking, I'll have you mute yourself too. But so you can keep your dog around if you'd like. Looks like we've got Willis and Michael joining us too. Hello. How's it going? There we go. All right. So I just did something called Spotlight, so that'll keep me as the big screen that everybody sees. But I'll also want to make sure I'm
unmuted. Everybody should be able to talk, provided they're not muted.
Yeah. They come in muted, so.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. There you go. So it turns out I can also control your mute and unmute, Kate. So when it's your time to share later on in the thing, I'll make sure to unmute you. But is it okay if I go ahead and mute you for now?
Yeah, go right ahead.
All
Very
right.
good idea.
That's good. All right. So I think we're still waiting for a few more people to show because according to our files, we have quite a few people registered tonight. So we'll let a few people continue to join us. But maybe for Willis and Michael, maybe just in the chat window off to the side, maybe you guys could tell me where you're videoing in from. Somewhere around New York or somewhere elsewhere in the country, in the world. So I'll type where I'm coming in from, which is Pittsburgh, PA. Okay, nice. Nice to meet you, Michael, from Rye Brook, New York. Hello, looks like Jody's joining us. Hello, Jody. And Kate's coming in from Clinton. Great. Hello, looks like we've got Luba joining us. Welcome, Luba. Jody says hi. Hi, Jody. If anybody would like, there are controls in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. So I'll have everybody keep themselves muted for now. But if anybody feels comfortable sharing video, I want to create that feeling of us all kind of being in a classroom together. So if anyone feels comfortable sharing video, it would be great to see your faces as you join. And something we're doing in the chat window right now is just putting where you're coming in from, which sort of city and state you are joining the chat from. We've got a few different people from around New York. I'm coming to you live from a basement in Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh, PA. So it's just nice to know where everybody's coming from. And I'm also going to share in the chat window. I'm going to share a Google document as well. And so this Google Doc is going to have a bunch of links and resources and all kinds of things that you guys can reference later. So you'll have access to this Google Doc beyond this webinar as well. But it was a place for me to put our agenda and to put some information that might be relevant and linked. So I'll try to make sure to share that Google Doc a few times throughout the webinar today. But if you're just joining us, go ahead and click on that Google Doc link in the chat window so that you can have access to that document. Awesome. So if you'd like, when you click on that document, it's got a little agenda in there. Welcome to those of you just joining. And there's a little icebreaker there as well. You can engage in that icebreaker if you'd like. I'll share that Google Doc again. But I'll do a little introduction of myself as people are coming in. So good evening, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kelsey Derringer, and I am the Professional Development Coordinator for Bird Brain Technologies. So that means that I travel around the country and I teach teachers coding and robotics. And I also, at Bird Brain, help create all of the learning materials that you see online. So all of the lesson plans and the tutorials and everything that we're gonna take a look at today, I helped to create those as well. And I'd love to help you and your school and your students figure out how best to access those. But I am coming to you live from our live stream learning studio today, which allows me to travel a little bit less around the country because I can reach teachers anywhere in the world, really, with this studio, which is really an amazing opportunity for teachers and for me. It means I get to spend more time with my cat, which he's really happy about. So I'm really glad to see all of you guys here today. Again, I'm just going to continue to periodically share that Google document in the chat window so that you can see that popping up. But one of the first things in that Google Doc is a Mentimeter question. I just want to know what brought you here today. So on your smartphone or on your computer, if you go to menti.com and you put in 184655, that'll give me an idea of why you guys are here today in this webinar, because I want to make sure that you get out of it what you want. So I just shared that Menti screen right there. I have it on the, yeah. So it looks like one person's really interested in learning about Finch 2.0, which is great, because I'm going to show you how to program with Finch 2.0 today. So yeah, you can put your answer in there. What are you most interested in hearing about today in that Mentimeter little poll that I've got going there? Let's see. Oh. So if at any point today you have a question or you want to kind of jump into the conversation, there's a couple different ways to do that. One, you could type your question out in the chat window and I can check that out. That'll appear for me. And also Matt Chilbert. Matt, will you wave from your video? There's Matt. Matt is actually in the same room with me. He also works at Bird Brain. Yes, that's also me. But he's going to help me monitor the chat window today. And so he can kind of help you out there. Or also, we wanted to make sure that everybody kind of felt like we were all together in this. So you can wave your arms frantically to show me that you have a question, but I don't always see everybody from there. So you could also just unmute yourself as well. There's a button in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If you have a question at any point today, feel free to interrupt and say, hi, this is so-and-so, and I had a quick question for you, like if you wanna do that there. So you can either type your question in the chat window or you can unmute yourself and kind of jump in from there. I always have the power to remute you if I don't like your question, so. Awesome. So just taking a look at our poll here today, looks like we've got a few people that are interested in Finch 2.0, a couple people interested in classroom examples for Finch 1 and Hummingbird Bit as well. So that's really useful for us to know going forward, so I can make sure to spend my time there. But so I also want to ask you, not just what are you most interested in hearing about from us today, but I also want to ask you, what are you interested in, like why do you think we should be teaching coding and robotics in general? There are a few different answers there, and so it just probably, your screen on menti.com probably just changed and it's asking you this question now. So there are a few different responses. There are lots of different reasons, but if you could pick your top 2 of these possible answers, it'd be really good to know what's on our hearts as we come into this conversation today as well. So a few different reasons why you might want to teach coding and robotics. For jobs, for workforce development, for being a good 21st century citizen, competencies and literacies. Those are taking up some space now, that's great. Zoom out just a skosh. Got one person for technological, social, and scientific innovation. Interesting. School reform and improvement. Yeah, a lot of people are interested in those competencies and literacies, persistence, grit, 21st century skills, creativity. Awesome. I'll let a few more answers come in there. Personal agency and joy, fulfillment, so like fun. Fun, I think, is a great reason to do something in a classroom. I think a lot of times we feel like we need to align things to standards and justify things to our admin or our school boards. But I honestly, truly believe that fun is a great justification for wanting to do something in a classroom, because that's how kids learn. Kids learn by having fun. Great, it's good to know what people are coming in with today. It looks like quite a few people are interested in hearing a little bit more about our Finch 2.0, which we're going to get to later. We've got a few people that are interested in learning more about the Hummingbird bit as well as some classroom examples for both. So we're going to hit both of those today. This will be great. So I think it's useful, though, to first talk about what a robot actually is so that we can all kind of be on the same page with that. So when we talk about robotics, we talk about this sense, think, act model. Sensing means that your robot is going to gather data from the environment somehow. And if you're using a Hummingbird kit, like this guy here, if you were to open up your Hummingbird bit kit, let me show you what some of these pieces are when you look at there. So a sensor might be like a distance sensor, there's a sound sensor, a light sensor, and a dial sensor. Those might be, you can use any or all of those sensors in a Hummingbird. The Finch has a lot of those same things. You can see right there, that's the distance sensor. It's locked in Finch. It's got some light sensors up here. It's got some infrared line following sensors on the bottom there. So your robot, whether it's a Hummingbird or a Finch, is going to have sensors. The thinking part of your robot is actually this part right here. This is the Hummingbird itself, and this is a microbit. And the microbit is like that's the microcontroller that we're using for this particular robot. Another example of a microcontroller would be like an Arduino, or really most small electronics have some kind of microcontroller in it. You can think of that like the brain, and the Hummingbird is like the body. Or same with our new Finch 2.0, the Finch has the microbit is the thinking part of the robot, and there's also some other stuff in there that attaches to the microbit. But this is the microcontroller. This is where the thinking happens. So I'll put that in the middle. And then the actions, sense, think, act, now it's going to do something with that information. The actions might be LEDs, or they might be motors. And there's a couple different types of motors that come with your Finch, or with your Hummingbird. There's rotation motors and position motors. Or in your Finch, you've got the wheels that are motors, and it's also got some LEDs in the nose and in the tail. Those are new for the Finch 2.0. As well as both the Hummingbird and the Finch have a buzzer as well. And another cool output for the Finch is this hole in the middle. I bet you can guess what goes in there. A Crayola washable marker fits really perfectly in there. So it used to be that if you wanted to draw with a Finch, you had to tape something onto the tail, but you could really only make circles. But now, since the marker mount is in between the axle of the two wheels, you can do things like angles. You can draw things like squares and all kinds of cool things like that. I see Kate really excited because she's a huge Finch user. She's going to tell us some stories about teaching with Finch later. So this model of sense, think, act, I think is really useful when we're talking about what robots are and how we might engage with them. And so to just chat briefly about our topic today, which is exploring creativity and computer science, I think there's some really valid questions that we might ask about how we're teaching computer science if we want to put creativity in there, and why it might actually be important to put creativity into your teaching of computer science. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to draw a little graph for you really quick. So this is a graph that I found in a magazine. I'm gonna create a graphic right before your very eyes with a very sophisticated graphing tool, also known as a permanent marker. And so this graph tracks student engagement and motivation to learn with how much structure they're given in the classroom. So this would be like very open-ended, like barely any sort of, barely any direction, really open-ended. So like if you put a Hummingbird in front of a student and you maybe have Snap up as the programming language, and that might be what that would look like. This would be like inquiry-based learning. So in this inquiry-based portion, that might be, here's a Hummingbird, I'll teach you how to blink a light, but now make a little project with it. You get to have some creative input as to what that looks like, what that project is going to become. And then over here would be like direct instruction. And so that would be, all right, here's step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're all doing the same thing at the same time. And this graph that I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you what student, and over here we've got student motivation. So how motivated are students to learn with this? And so with boys, this is about how their motivation, this is about what this bell curve looks like. It starts down here, they get really motivated to learn, and then it kind of levels off a little bit. And I'll put a link after we're done here. I'll put a link to where I found this graph. It's in a publication called Hello World. They do quarterly publications. So that's what boys' motivation to learn looks like with these different teaching styles. With the red marker here, I'm going to show you what motivation to learn with these different teaching styles looks like with girls. It starts about here. It also goes up. And then it tanks. And so I think it's really important when we think about why would you put creativity in your computer science curriculum, to whom would that matter? I think it matters to all kinds of different students. And it matters when I said before, like, hey, I think fun is a valid reason to do something in the classroom. This is to whom it matters. When we ask questions like, why is there a persistent gender gap in STEM careers, and in who's taking the AP computer science course, and who's taking AP computer science, who's majoring in that, who's majoring in computer science in college, why aren't more girls doing that? Well, how are you teaching computer science? And I think there's a real opportunity now in a way that there hasn't been in the last, a decade ago, because when you're teaching something like Java or Python, that text-based coding, you kind of have to teach it with direct instruction. If you miss a slash somewhere, your robot's not going to work. You have to show steps 1 through 10. We all have to do it the same. But with block-based coding, there's a real opportunity to let your students engage in inquiry-based learning with something as sort of like advanced sounding as coding and robotics. So I think it's really important, and in fact essential, especially to questions around equity and inclusion, to include creativity in the way that you teach computer science. So I think that's one of those graphs that like I saw and immediately like it changed my teaching practice a little bit. So I'll make sure to put a link to where I found that graph. And the actual good graphic. I mean, this is beautiful, I know, but there's a better version of that. So I'll make sure to put a link to that in the teaching document. What I want to move on to now, I'm going to scroll down a little bit, is we're going to program a Hummingbird. I'm going to show you how easy it is to do that. And then we're going to do a little building with a Hummingbird. And then I'm going to do the same thing with our Finch 2.0. And Kate's going to talk to you about one of the projects that she's done or that she's excited and ready to do with her Finch 1s in her school. Because Finch 2s are so brand new, ain't nobody got them yet. They're not out in the wild yet. They are all domesticated finches. So let's take a look at our Hummingbird here. Let me switch that over. Zoop, zoop. Okay, so here's our Hummingbird. I mentioned here's the brains of the operation. This is your microbit and your Hummingbird. This is just plugged in here. I've got a battery pack plugged in, and then I've got a single color LED plugged in as well. This LED is green. I know because it's got a green wire and a black wire, so it's going to be green. And I'm going to program it today with Snap as our programming language. So this is what Snap looks like. Maybe we can do a little fun thing. Everybody put your thumbs up if you have used Snap before, Snap or Scratch before to program. Everybody give me a thumbs up. I'm just going to kind of look at everybody's videos here to see who has programmed with Snap before. Keep your thumbs up if you've got them. Well, thumbs, and also, hey, all right, I see 2 thumbs up. He's programmed 2 times with Snap. That's great. Okay, so Snap is a block-based programming language, and if you've never done block-based programming before, it's super easy. And like I mentioned before, it really gives teachers an opportunity to teach with inquiry-based learning, because you can kind of just like you can kind of just mess around a little bit and see what you can do. So to program my LED, I'm first just going to get this Hummingbird LED to blink. So let me show you what a program like that might look like. I might grab, oops, I'm in the wrong screen. There we go. I might grab my Hummingbird LED block. So this says Hummingbird LED 1. Now the reason this says 1, it's got 1, 2, or 3. The reason I picked 1 is I'm plugged in. If I zoom this in here with my sophisticated Zoom technology, see how I've got it plugged into port 1 there? You've got 3 LEDs you could use, but I'm plugged into port 1. All right, so I've got Hummingbird LED 1, and then 0% is the brightness of the LED. So if I want to turn it on all the way, I would set this to 100%. And to run the program, I'm going to put this side by side so you can see the Hummingbird and the program at the same time. So you can see when the light comes on. So to run the program, I'm just going to click it. Ta-da! My light turned on. You'll notice if you've used a Duo before, a Hummingbird Duo, which is the old version, that you might be saying, wait, how did it do that? It's not plugged into anything. That's because the Hummingbird Bit can do Bluetooth. And so you can connect wirelessly to a laptop, like a Windows or a Mac. You can also tether it and use a different programming language like MakeCode. I'll go back here. You could also tether it and use a programming language like MakeCode and download the program onto the board. You could also use that Bluetooth functionality and use it with an iPad or a Kindle or a smartphone. So this Hummingbird Bit is really great because you can use it with basically any device. You can use it with a laptop, Windows or Mac. You can use it with a Chromebook. You can use it with an iPad. You can use it with a Kindle Fire. You can use it with a smartphone. Whatever you've got in your school, in your space, the Hummingbird Bit does that, and you don't have to buy any additional adapters or do anything with firmware or anything like that to be able to use it. I'm just doing this option with this Bluetooth option with Snap today because that way I can show you the code on my screen next to the Hummingbird itself. So let's keep programming this light to not just be on. Turning a light on is cool. Making a light blink is cooler. So let's do that. So I'm going to go here and grab out another Hummingbird LED light, a Hummingbird LED block, and I'm going to leave this one at 0%. So now it's going to go 100%, 0%, but I want it to do that over and over again. I want it to be 100% and then 0%, and then I want it to loop and do that again. So if you've ever done any block-based coding, I bet you know what I'm looking for. Up here, there's a portion of Snap. All of these are different folders up here, and I'm going to go to the gold control blocks and scroll down until I find one that says forever. Check this out. This is a little loop here. So I'm going to put those 2 blocks inside of the forever loop, and now I'm going to click it. See how it's glowing? And that tells me that it's initiated. Well, look here. Now I've got a light blinking on and off. Now it's blinking a little bit inconsistently and kind of fast, and the reason is that my program wants to read this code, wants to read the 100% and the 0%. It wants to do them almost exactly at the same time. So I'm going to slow this code down a little bit by getting a wait 1 second block and putting it in between there. So now I'm going to have a light blinking. There we go. It's going to stay on for a second and it's going to go off for a second. Back and forth. That's how easy it is to get a light to blink. So I love how simple that is. But right now, this is just a blinking light. And I'll be honest, if I were I used to teach 4th grade after school. It was an after school girls only program for 4th through 8th grade. And if I were one of my 4th grade girls, they wouldn't quite be interested in that yet. They're like, okay, it's a light, whatever. But here's how you turn a simple thing like an LED into a project. So I've got some cardboard here. Keep my blinking light on the screen. And I'm going to get a box cutter and a cutting board, like so. Great. Let's bring our light back on stage, on screen, whatever, it's a stage. And I'm going to just do a quick little hack with this piece of cardboard. I'm going to cut an X in it, like so. There we go. See how I cut a little X in there? And then here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to unplug my light, which is super easy to do. I'm going to thread it through here. Thank you. Matt reminded me that it can be nice to poke a pen through there first to help thread it through. Thanks, Matt. And then I'm going to pull my light through, and check this out. That just mounted it really nicely on that piece of cardboard. which is super nice, super simple. I'm going to plug my light back in. Now my program is still running because it's still connected to Snap. So the minute I plug this back in, it's still blinking a light. Now this is almost a project. This is almost interesting to me. It's very close. It's interesting adjacent. Here's what I'm going to do to make it actually cool. I'm going to draw a little. It's going to be a little friendly guy. Look at there. Does anybody know who that is? Don't tell Disney, but it's Mike Wazowski. So I just made like a funky little character. It's just a blinking light and a piece of cardboard. This is cheap. It's, some would argue, a little dumb, but kind of fun. Like, I'm actually interested in this. This could be a self-portrait. This could be a character from a book that you're reading in school. You don't have to do one of these big kind of, you know, time expensive projects. You certainly can. There's a very high ceiling as to what you can do with a hummingbird, but there's a really low floor for that as well. You can do something as simple as this blinking light in Mike Wazowski's eyeball there. I also have, check out this project. I'm not gonna show you it working, but look at this here. This is a traffic light. It's got a red, yellow, and green light in it, which is great because you have a red, yellow, and green light in your Hummingbird kit, but you could make something as simple as that. So that ramps it up a little bit more. And then I'm gonna show you one other project that takes that concept of the, let's cut an X in a piece of cardboard. I'm gonna show you, actually, I'll just leave it on the shelf there. You can see it pretty well. Do you see the map up there? So that is a map of the United States. Actually, would you bring that down for me? Thanks. Matt's gonna grab that for me. He's gotta do something with the battery pack. But this is a map of the United States. And what it's showing is it's showing the migration patterns of monarch butterflies. I don't know if anybody has ever looked that up before, but monarch butterflies, they go from Mexico all the way up to Canada, and they do that every year, which is really cool. So let me go back here and I'll show you this project in full. There we go. So I'll zoom out just a skosh so you can see the whole thing. There we go. So this is the monarch butterfly migration by generation. So something I learned when I was researching this, monarch butterflies don't do this migration in just one generation. It takes multiple generations to make it up to Canada. So I've indicated that the first generation is in red. I don't know if you can tell, but these two are red LEDs. The second generation, they lay eggs here, and the second generation makes it up to about the southeastern United States. So those are yellow lights, and they lay eggs and die. And the next group, the next generation, the third generation, are these green lights up in Canada. It takes 3 generations for them to get up there, and then a 4th generation in just a couple of months comes all the way back down. So this is that same concept of an LED, cut an X in something and make it into a project. And now this is a map that actually communicates some information. And later on, I added a sensor to it. So let me show you what this project looks like with the sensor that I added. So this is just a dial sensor, and it shows the different times of year, March, April, May, June, July. And as I turn the dial, you can see what time of year the different generations of butterflies are in the different parts of the United States. So we've got tutorials that'll show you on our website how to use the different sensors and inputs and outputs, right? So now this is not just a robot, or this is not just a project. This is a robot. It senses, it thinks, and it acts. Pretty cool, right? So that's programming with your Hummingbird. If anybody has any more like questions about what it's like to program with a Hummingbird, feel free to just type those out in the chat window there, and we can kind of answer those either now or at the end when we have some time for questions. So if you have questions about that, feel free to check those out there. What I'm going to do next, let me consult the agenda. Great. I'm actually going to show you where to find access to information so that you could, if you're like, oh, I want to blink a light, but I don't remember what she did in that video, here's how to find all of that information. I'm going to show you that just briefly here. So to find all of the programming information, all of the tutorials, all of like the building hacks, like cutting an X in your LED like that, The place you're going to go to will be birdbraintechnologies.com. So on our website here, you could learn a little bit more about Hummingbird and Finch. If you're interested in Finch 2.0, there's this purple banner up here. We're going to explore that a little bit more later. But if you go to our robots, you can learn a little bit more about Hummingbird here. And so I really like how we set this up, because we made it so that for each component, we show you that component working by itself. There's a little more professional looking version of our traffic light. And then we show you what a program that controls that little project might look like. So we just explored single color LEDs, but look at all the rest of the stuff that is included in your Hummingbird. Tricolor LEDs, position servos, rotation servos, light sensors, distance sensor, sound sensor, dial sensor. There's an LED screen, which is part of the microbit, an accelerometer, so it knows when it's being tilted, a compass, so it knows what direction it's facing, some A and B buttons that you can use as a form of input, the buzzer, and also radio functions, so you can get one Hummingbird to talk to other hummingbirds within about a 20-foot radius. It can just do so much stuff, and especially so much more stuff than old Duo could do. So you can learn a little bit more about Hummingbird there. But if you want to learn how to use it, you could fly me out to wherever you are and I could teach you how to use it. Or you could access, if you're in New York, you could talk to your local BOCES. We are working on training different BOCES staff to be able to teach workshops with Hummingbird. I've worked with about 5 different BOCES already. So they already know how to do that. But you can contact your BOCES and they can help you learn how to do that. Or you could go to Get Started, this purple Get Started button. If you're the kind of person who just kind of wants to teach themselves some things, I'm going to deselect some things here so you can see what that might look like. So if you go to Get Started, this takes you to our portal. And so this is where you can select which robot you're interested in. So we just did the Hummingbird bit. You can select which device you are programming on. So I'm on a Windows machine right here. And then you can see which programming languages you have to choose from here. So make code is an option. Snap is what we were using. You could also do Python and Java. So I'm going to select Snap because that's where we were. Then you hit Get Started. And so when you go through our portal, that gives you access to these 4 pages, and it filters out all of the information you don't need to know. Program, build, teach, and resources. So program, that page has programming tutorials on it. We're going to take a look at that right now. And these tutorials are actually video tutorials so that you can just follow along with the video. So for example, single color LED, it's a 7-step process, and we take you from the point of plugging it in. So by the way, those are Matt's hands. So now you guys know what Matt's face looks like. Not everybody knows that. It's privileged information. Most people just see Matt's hands in these videos. But from how to plug it in to which blocks to drag out. Now there's text along the side here, which you can certainly read, but you can also, if you're a teacher or if you're a student, kind of just follow along with these videos as well. We've heard from a lot of teachers that this is really beneficial for students who don't speak English, for deaf students, for students who are a little behind in their reading. These video tutorials take the process of coding and they make it kind of just a little bit procedural. So you can get into the computer science behind things, but you can also just blink your light if that's what you really want to do to just get started. And so we have a module for each of the inputs, or each of the outputs, excuse me, and inputs. There's a little module. You don't have to start anywhere. You don't have to go through them all. If you just want to make a map, do the single color LED module. And maybe if you want to add a dial to it, do the dial module. You've got everything you need to make an interactive map of monarch butterfly migration patterns, which obviously you all want to do right now. So that's just the programming tab though. There's also the build tab. And in the build tab, we've got some things at the bottom. We've got some Hummingbird hacks here. So like things like how to add components to craft supplies. So like cutting an X for an LED. It sounds so simple and obvious, but if you've never done it before, you wouldn't know that. So things like that. We've got some great simple robots here. Things like the tiny drummer, the bee waggle, and the little bot. There's actually a little bot up behind me there that I decorated to look like Harry Potter because I just can't help myself. But we've got all kinds of different simple robots that you could check out there. And we've also got some mechanisms as well, which I love these mechanism videos. They break how to take something like a crank which is the one in down here. That could make a really great like mouth for like a big mouth bass, or if you turned it on its side, it could be a great door opening and closing if you're wanting to make a model of a haunted dollhouse. I don't know. I'm still in Halloween mode. But you could do all kinds of different things with these basic mechanisms here. We teach you how to build it. You decide what you want to build with it. So programming tutorials, building tutorials, and then the teach page, I think this is where it really opens up for teachers. A couple people said that they were really interested in seeing classroom examples and projects. Over here, we've on the teach page, we've got over 60 different projects from actual classrooms, from actual teachers, things that they've taught. So for example, I'll take a look at Robot Shakespeare here. And in Robot Shakespeare, we've got a video of student work. I'm gonna mute it because the sound will be kind of funky. But you can see this is what students built to go along with Romeo and Juliet. They built these little shoebox dioramas. They had to record themselves reading the dialogue of the scene and then sync up the actions to to the scene, excuse me. And then you can see the objectives and learning goals, what the teacher was trying to teach, and then the standards she aligned to. Now these, if you look closely enough, they're actually ELA standards because she was teaching deep and meaningful English content with these. So these are the standards she aligned to. Under here, she's got her lesson procedures, videos of her students' assessments, and also we always credit the teacher that we got this from. So again, there are over 60 different projects like that, and you can even filter for subject matter. I'm interested in math and science for 4th through 8th grade, somewhere in there. You can see all the projects we have that fit those criteria. So that's on the teach page. And then on the resources page, this is, I think, just super helpful for teachers. Also, I'm a little biased. This page is my baby. I contributed at least like the first draft to everything that's on this page. So there's things like a lesson plan for your first day of teaching robotics ever and your students' first day of learning robotics ever. There's a step-by-step lesson plan. There's a printable prototyping activity that you could print out. Your students can cut up these little cards and use that to help them prototype their first project. There's some assessment guides on here for both computational thinking and engineering design. So if you're interested in teaching those things, I think those assessment guides, if we think about that universal design concept, it can be helpful to know what you'd be looking for eventually so that you can set up your lessons and your projects to encourage those things. Curriculum planning tools, and also there's these coding cards and troubleshooting cards. Those are printable, flippable cards that you could print out, cut out. I like to laminate things, put them on a key ring, and so there's some example code. It shows you on the front how and where to plug in a component, and on the back it gives you some example code with that. And then the troubleshooting cards can also help just like your students figure out, is my battery pack on? Did I use the right block? Things like that. And there's even some classroom support things on this page as well. There's a grants guide. So if you are like, I think this is great, but we have no money at my school to do this, there's a grants guide there that we have a Google Doc where we've written up all kinds of information about Hummingbird and Finch, and you can copy, modify, ignore, copy, paste anything from that grants guide into the grant that you are writing. Some standards alignment with math and science and computer science standards, a great reading list if you want to have some books out on your shelf while you're teaching computer science or robotics, and these lunchbox videos. These are like 20-minute videos on different topics. So there's all kinds of great things on that resources page, but all of that is accessible by just going to Get Started and selecting your robot. So Get Started doesn't mean you have to start programming right now. You could go through Get Started and go to that resources page. You could go through Get Started and find those projects as well. And once Finch 2 is released, you'll be able to do all of this for Finch 2 as well. I won't say frantically, I am excitedly writing curriculum for Finch 2 right now, which will soon be accessible through the Get Started tutorials. The crowd goes fly. All right, that's the hope anyway. So just to check in with our agenda. All right, cool. Look at us being right on track time-wise. That's right, we're doing great. So I want to go ahead and do some things with Finch 2 now, which I am very excited about. So, this is our brand new Finch 2.0. So let me talk you through this little guy a little bit. I'll zoom in a little bit. So our Finch 2.0, the one that I have here today is actually a 3D printed prototype. This one's a pretty good looking 3D printed prototype, but the if there's like things being written on the wheels and the battery being exposed and like the top is a little rough, that's because this is a prototype of our of what the Finch 2 will actually look like. We're getting ones from the factory this month, but it's really exciting to have used a 3D printer, things that we actually use with students, to be able to use that in industry so that we could start teaching and start telling people about Finch 2.0. That's pretty cool. But just so you know, the actual Finches will look a little nicer than this one here. So just to talk you through, again, what we're seeing on this Finch, especially when you compare it to Finch 1.0, for the outputs, if we think about that, for that sense, think, act model of robotics, the actions, the outputs are motors for wheels. We've got a light in the nose and some lights in the tail. And we've also got a buzzer, which you can't see, but you could hear it. And then another output would be putting a marker, that's a bad example, putting a marker in the top of Finch like so that you could draw with it. That could be another type of output. So we've got those kinds of outputs. For inputs, we've got the distance sensor here. Down below here, this is an infrared light sensor. And so that can be used for like line following. So if you draw a line, you can get it to follow that line. And then we've also got some light sensors in the top of it here. You can't see them, but they're in there. And then also for inputs, we've got all kinds of things associated with the microbit. So these buttons back here that are part of the microbit. The microbit inside of it has an accelerometer, so it knows when it's being tilted. It's got a compass, so it knows which direction it's pointing. So you could do something like make a go west, young robot. And like when you set it down, it finds west and it just always goes west. That would be something fun to do with your Oregon Trail unit or something like that. Bring a little computer science in there. So as with Hummingbird, you can use your Finch with text-based coding languages like Java and Python, so at that more high school level. You can use them with block-based coding languages, Snap, MakeCode, and Bird Blocks. Bird Blocks is our tablet app. Those are all block-based coding languages, but you can also use your Finch with a icon-based programming language. What do I mean when I say icon-based programming language? Well, let me show you. What this does is it allows students even younger than 3rd and 4th grade to be able to interact with computer science and physical computing in a developmentally appropriate way. So everything that we just did with Snap, the way that we programmed your Hummingbird, you could totally do with your Finch, but I want to show you this icon-based programming language here. So let me open up my thing. So this right here is Finch Blocks. This is a brand new app that we developed to work with Finch. And this is our icon-based programming language. So let me turn my Finch back on. He went to sleep. There we go. You can see some of the LEDs in there. Great. And you'll actually see this is, it was flashing some letters. That's how you know which Finch you're going to connect to. But so I've got it connected right here. And if I zoom in just a little bit on the screen, I'll end up putting Finch back on the screen in just a minute. But I want to zoom in so you can see Finch Blocks a little bit easier. All right. So in Finch Blocks, if you remember in Snap, there were words, there were numbers, there were percentages. So if you're a kindergartner, you don't know what 100% is. You don't know what LED means. You're maybe still learning what L is, right? So if you want to do programming with a kindergartner, you need something for pre-readers. So this is what the interface looks like for Finch Blocks. So you can drag these movement blocks, LED blocks, and sound blocks, and you can drag them up into that space. So if I want my Finch to go forward, and then I want it to turn this way, and then I want the nose to go red, and then the tail to go, no, not green, I want it to go blue, and then I want it to play a couple of notes. There we go. I can zoom in on that a little bit. And if I zoom out on my programming space here, scooch this off to the side, I'll show you Finch here, and now I can press the green flag forward. You can see it's lighting up the icons that it's doing. Now the nose goes red, the tail goes blue. There we go. And so when we talk about algorithms and sequencing and things like that, it shows you which step of the sequence it's doing as it does it, as the Finch physically does it. So you can, students can really start to see that link between the program that they're building and the thing that it's doing. But this is just level 1. This would be appropriate for a pre-K or kindergarten, people who really aren't reading at all yet. But if you go up here, you could also choose level 2. And so in this, now you get a little bit more control. If I zoom back in a little bit, you can see that you can control how far the Finch goes. Instead of just controlling forward or turn, I want it to go, no, not 10 centimeters. I want it to go 20 centimeters. Yeah. And then I want it to turn, but I don't want it to turn 90 degrees. And look at this Finch icon while I drag this guy across here. I want it to turn all the way around to 180 degrees. So we're starting to build some angle knowledge, some practical angle knowledge. And then, you know what? I want the tail to be, no, I don't want it to be blue. I want it to be pink. There. And I want it to, I can pick a different note. Can you hear the iPad making those noises? I want it to be that note. Okay, so now I'll zoom back out again and we can see it run this program. Here's Finch Blocks. Here's Finchy. Forward. Turn around. Oops, I picked it up. Hold on, let me start that again. I'll start him back a little bit so he doesn't go all the way off screen. Okay, try again. Forward 20 centimeters, turn all the way around. Beautiful job. There we go. So you can have a little bit more control as you get into the different levels of Finch Blocks. If I zoom back in one more time, I'll show you what level 3 looks like in Finch Blocks as well. Level 3, you get a little bit more control as far as speed goes. So you can control not only distance, but speed. You can control again, not just the color, but the brightness. This is 10 out of 10 brightness. You get in here, you can control loudness, I believe. 1, 2, or 3 loudness. And you start to get some gold control blocks. Do you remember that forever loop that we had in Snap? There's the same sort of loop here. There's a forever loop. I think there's and then there's a numbered loop. So this one is what a forever loop looks like. This one is what a numbered loop looks like. This can really scaffold your students' learning, and it really depends on your goals in the classroom. If you want to get into the computer sciences stuff, go ahead and head over to Snap. If you want to start by just making some funky little projects or something, maybe start with bird blocks, whether you're in kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade. We say all the way up to about 4th or 5th grade, bird blocks might be appropriate for, since it's got these levels on here. And something I hear from teachers too is this allows them to scaffold within the same classroom in the same app and the same tool for different students. So with Finch Blocks as your app and Finch as your robot, you can serve, you know, this group of students who's struggling a little bit. Why don't you guys stick with level 1 and you're going to do the challenge? And you know, this group over here, why don't you guys go to Finch level 2? You guys are ready for that amount of release of control. So what are some things that you might do with a Finch? What are some classroom activities? Because remember, I showed you some simple, funky things to do with your Hummingbird. This has been my favorite activity that I've done with Finch so far. I'm going to get a cup. Yeah. Here's a cup. And I'm going to get a ping pong ball from my handy dandy box of ping pong balls. Put it up there. And then here's the challenge that I set for my students, which in this case were teachers. I taught this at a workshop at a conference last month, which is Finch jousting, which is, all right, you have to start your Finch an arm length away from your cup and a hand length over, and you have to write an algorithm to get Finch to and knock the ball off the cup. And I also put out some craft supplies, things like pipe cleaners, things like craft sticks. I really only put out a few things. So I put out these things, pipe cleaners, craft sticks, something like this, and some tape. If I go back here, put out this, and then a couple things of tape. Pow. And that's what you've got to make your Finch into a jouster. And so that taught, they were practicing the concept of algorithms. They had to initiate it with when the green flag is tapped. So it brought, when we think about that graph that we were talking about before with student motivation, that made this learning inquiry-based. We're not just blinking a light. We're not all doing the exact same thing. I'm giving you a challenge, knock the ball off the cup, and you have to decide how you're going to solve that challenge. Are you going to build something? Are you going to ram into the cup? Are you going to build something to sort of like engineer to knock it off the cup? That's up to you. So again, I think block-based learning and physical computing can bring creativity into your computer science in a way that you weren't able to do with text-based coding. And these robotics tools really let you be creative in a way that you may not have been able to if you're just teaching the code. So again, if anybody has any questions, start to ask those in the chat window off to the side. We've got about 10 minutes left. I'd love to shoot it over to Kate. I'll unmute you, Kate. So Kate is a librarian in the state of New York. And she works for the BOCES, but also teaches at a school. And she's been a Finch 1 user, our old version of Finch, which is this guy right here. She's been a Finch 1 user for a number of years now, and you came to a convention or a conference that we did a couple summers ago with the new Hummingbirds when they were brand new. So I'd love it if you could share about one of the projects that you've done in your classroom. I'll go ahead and unmute you, and I will pin your video to, I will spotlight your video so everybody can see you. There you go.
Cool. So I actually am not technically a librarian. I have been a youth librarian, but I just wanted to make that clear. I teach coding to K-4, and I've done a couple of things with 4th grade. Last year I worked with Finch 1 with 2nd grade, and that was the first time that I had done an activity with them at that age level. We read a book, and I made a project with the Hummingbird, and then they used the Finch to just draw randomly on paper that was on the floor. And then that led us into some other things that were pretty fun without markers. And the markers kind of drew them in because they could do this random drawing. And then we used that drawing as the background for a huge mural. The book was Maybe Something Beautiful, which is about making a huge mural as a community project. And so that was one of the foundational pieces for that. And then after that, we challenged each other, and the kids, they used Snap Junior, which I was noticing it's really similar to Finch Blocks, but it's in sort of a different sort of there's a different interface where everything's along the side, and the kids had a little bit of difficulty, finding everything they wanted. So I like the look of that new Finch Blocks program. But they made little mystery programs, and the other kids would watch their Finch do their thing, and then try to figure out, reverse engineer what those kids had done to make their Finch do that. And that was so fun, and a little insane, because it just was like, no, it's this, no, it's that, which also brought up the whole, there's more than one way to program that thing to do this or that. So that's very cool.
Like a game of telephone, actually. Like you're taking that concept of game of telephone, but applying it to coding. That's so brilliant. I love it.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. And now this year, our school has initiated an all-school enrichment program. And so I have the opportunity to work with 1st and 2nd grade in groups of just 10 kids or less. And so I'm definitely doing my topic with Finch. And perhaps you can guess what my concept is.
Oh my gosh. Ah!
By the way, I don't know if you can tell that from here. The kids got to choose what they wanted to do, and we were supposed to pick something that wasn't in our bailiwick as a subject area teacher. But so I picked unicorns, and my thing's called Unicornucopia. And I thought, oh, we'll do all kinds of different things. And then the kids went around and they tried all the special teachers' projects. What are you going to do? And decide which one they wanted to do. And I really thought that Unicornucopia was going to be a tough sell on those boys, but as soon as they saw this, they seemed more game. So that creativity, like they're going to get a chance to do what they want to do, and the girls get to do what they want to do. And I don't know. I think it's going to be super fun.
Yeah.
We're going to do a maze.
You're going to do a maze with your unicorns.
Yeah, I thought they could come up with ideas for goals for the unicorn to go to, and then they could design those goals, like, you know, a maiden or a fairy or a mushroom or whatever, and then we could put it in the maze, and then they could drive around and try to get to that and
That
collect
sounds
those.
so fun.
Yeah, I think
Love
it will be
that.
fun.
I love hearing what you are doing in your classroom, Kate. I love I mean, you're such an innovative teacher. I just love hearing what you're doing. I'm really excited to be able to, we're going to teach a workshop together at NiceGate in just a couple weeks with Finch 2.0. It will be only the second or third workshop that's ever been taught with Finch 2.0. And we'll have the brand new ones that are actually like tooled. So it'll be very exciting. But I loved what you were saying about, like, you thought it was maybe going to be a hard sell with the unicorn thing, but the boys saw the little robot and they're like, yeah. Or was it that they saw the robot or they saw the craftiness of it? What do you think?
It was the robot.
Okay.
It was the robot.
It was the robot. Good. That's good. I think one of the things that we find, though, is, so both Hummingbird and Finch were developed out of Carnegie Mellon University around the research question, how do we engage more girls in coding? And I think that's a really important research question. And they found a couple of things. One, you got to take the code off the screen and make it physical, which both Finch and Hummingbird do. Number two, you've got to give them meaningful creative choices. So with Hummingbird, you're making meaningful creative choices just, you know, immediately. Like, in order to make it into a thing, you've got to make creative choices. With Finch, you can certainly make some meaningful creative choices about how am I going to accomplish this goal of jousting, or what will my unicorn look like, or what goal are we going towards in the maze, all meaningful creative choices. And then the third thing that they found, which more applies to Hummingbird a little bit, but also to Finch, is that the supplies that you put out actually matter to girls' engagement. So putting out craft supplies that they're familiar with really helped them feel comfortable starting to make something, because some students are going to be engaged by the idea of robotics and coding, and they're going to be like, yeah, you know, put me in. But some, I know for my girls, I was teaching primarily African-American girls from a low-income neighborhood in Pittsburgh. And when I said, all right, girls, next week we're going to be making robots, I got like a resounding meh from them. And one of them literally asked me, how long are you going to be doing that for? I'll come back when you're done. Because they were there to make like glitter lip gloss and slime and note card towers. That's what they came to the program for. But when I said, we're going to be making cardboard animals, that's when the girls were like, yes, I want to do that. And I was like, and we can make a move. And they were like, yes, we want to do that. And I was like, we can do that with some robotics. And they were like, whatever. Okay, just like, let me make a rainbow unicorn. So yes, you can do that. But the craft supplies really matter to student engagement. So, and they matter to a number of different historically underengaged groups: girls, students of color, students of low socioeconomic status, rural students, and students with learning exceptionalities are all historically underserved in STEM, in computer science, in math and technology, in STEM careers. They're not as engaged in those. And we find that if you start serving one of those well, you end up serving some of those other groups well as well, because when you bring craft supplies into it, girls love that. And also my students who were from that low socioeconomic status, they had seen these craft supplies before and they'd gotten to use them in art class, but they'd never been given the option to make anything you want with cardboard. That like blew their minds. They were so psyched to be there. Can I really make a unicorn that farts rainbows? If you can engineer it, you can do it. Yes. So with our last couple minutes here, I want to leave you with your, what do you want next? What do you want to do next? So first things first, you guys have a discount code. So if you want to purchase anything from our web store, and there's a link to the web store in the Google Doc, and then I'll also be following up with you guys, sending an email tomorrow. If you want to buy anything, you can get 15% off of anything you get from our web store. Let me zoom in a little bit. So your discount code is web15_111. And this discount is good for 3 months. So anytime between now and 1/1/1, which is January 11th. Actually it's 2 months, excuse me. So anything in the next 2 months, if you want to get 15% off of it, sorry, that expiration date is wrong. I should have changed that as well. It expires January 11th. So that's one thing you could do. You could buy stuff. Another thing you could do is talk to me. So you can email me for more information about professional development, if that's something that you're interested in. We have a number of options for professional development. We have on-site workshops where I come to you. We have this live stream learning platform where all of you guys were muted this time, but I've definitely done workshops through this live stream learning studio with schools, even having teachers join from multiple different schools and locations. We're going to spend 3 hours together. We're going to learn how to program your Hummingbird, and we're going to make a little project with it. And then in a week, I'm going to check back in with you, and we're going to do another 2 hours. Now that you've had time to build your project and code it, we're going to come back together and talk more about integration, stuff like that. So live stream learning is a great option for PD. And we also have some video courses that Matt and I have been working on for Make Code, Bird Blocks, and Snap. Right now they're just for Hummingbird, but they will very soon be available for Finch 2.0 as well. So these are self-paced video courses, kind of like Khan Academy, where you can like take yourself through the videos. Each one is like 2 to 6 minutes long, and there are like 14 or 15 videos. And this one's going to teach you how to blink an LED, and we're going to leave you with a little challenge at the end. How can you blink your LED faster? Join us in the next video, and we'll give you one potential answer to that coding question, and we'll show you a hack to use with an LED. And we do that with each component, with LEDs, tri-LEDs, the motors, the sensors, all that stuff. So there's those self-paced video courses. So you can certainly contact me for that. Or if you're going to be at NYSCATE, contact me. I'd love to meet up with you. We're doing a couple really cool events at NYSCATE, like a Bots and Bevs, where I'm going to bring the robots to, what was that place, Matt? It was a little like restaurant and brewery called Tap and Mallet. That's right. Yeah. Tap and Mallet. We're going to go there, and you buy your own drinks, your own appetizers, but I bring the robots and craft supplies, and we're going to make some funky little robots and have a beverage, Bots and Bevs. So you can contact me for any of those things, or visit our website. Our professional development page has all of those workshops and Bots and Bevs on there. Or if you have a demo, you can also get a demo kit. You can contact me for a demo kit as well. You can get a Hummingbird kit on loan for 2 months. We'll mail this to you totally for free. You don't have to pay shipping or anything. You can get this for 2 months to try out in your classroom, to try and program at home, to show to your administrator and say, I want this, or whatever you want to do with it. You get to choose what you want to do with it for 2 months. And at the end of that 2 months, you can either send it back to us and we'll ship it out to somebody else. You can also purchase that demo kit for 20% off. So really, at this point, we're not doing demos for Finch 2.0 yet, because as I said, there are about 10 of these in existence currently. But at some point next year, after the Finch 2.0s will start shipping. They're available for pre-sale right now, but they'll start shipping in March of next year. But if you have questions about any of that, absolutely feel free to reach out to me with any questions you have about Hummingbird, Finch, about NYSCATE, or if you want to talk about professional development, classroom integration, I'm your gal for that. So thank you all so much for joining me today. I want to be respectful of our time. It's 5:01 now. So thank you all so much. It's been nice meeting all of you, the little bit that I have, and I'll hang out here for the next 5-10 minutes or so. If anybody has any extra questions, you can type them out in the chat window, or you can just unmute yourself too. I'll be hanging out here. Thank you all so much. We need some outro music.
We do. And sorry, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael, if you want to just hang out for a moment, I'd be happy to troubleshoot that Finch problem that you're having.
Cool.
Thank you.
A few suggestions for you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Should I talk now?
Yeah, now would be fine.
All right, so hold on 1 second.
Sure.
So I have 12 brand new Finches, and I tried using it last week with my students.
Yep.
And before they arrived to the class, I downloaded the software to all the MacBook Airs.
Okay.
The students, they connected the robots to the MacBook Airs, and they were having a lot of trouble connecting to the server. And then also when they were connecting, you know, I want them to do level 4.
Right.
And level 4, when they would open it up, we did see like an already preloaded program,
Yep.
like a script of blocks, and there were Finch blocks in that preloaded program. But then when I told the students to create a new program for me, they would click new, and then they would scroll down in motion category, and they wouldn't see the Finch blocks at the bottom.
Okay. Yes. So when you do click new, it does not load in the blocks. It'll only load in the blocks when you open it from the initial program. You can delete those blocks, those ones that are already in there.
Okay.
What you could also do, had they exported that project, you can't export and save projects. That's not going to be a problem. But yeah, when you do open a new program within Snap, if it's not opened directly through the BirdBrain robot server, you're not going to see those blocks.
Okay.
I hope that part is clear.
Yeah.
What is a little concerning is that the students were having trouble connecting to the BirdBrain robot server.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming by that you mean when the Finches were plugged in, the BirdBrain robot server was saying Finch not connected.
A few times it said that, and then a few times it did say it was connected. But it was just, it's hard to explain. I think I'm a teacher, a public school teacher in New York City, and I think that the MacBook Airs that I use, I think that we're kind of restricted.
Okay.
And that I think that the DOE puts firewalls up that make it difficult for students to actually use the program. I think it's affecting the BirdBrain server, the technology.
Yeah.
I'm getting the kids are getting pop-ups that they need permission to move forward and use the Finch software.
It might be. It seems like it would be blocking it from sort of like the app level. I mean, would they have trouble opening? It seems like if they're not getting that warning from Snap,
No.
you know, if they were just to go to snap.com, would they get a similar warning? That's kind of what I'm asking.
I don't think so.
No?
I'm not getting it in the Chromebooks, but in the MacBook Airs, I'm getting it.
Huh.
I haven't used the Chromebooks yet. And I also wanted to say, too, my students in my class have already done Scratch 3.0, like beta, the new one.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And it's hard for us to go backwards to Snap, which is a lot more like, it's just archaic to me. It looks a lot more like antique-y and like,
Right.
doesn't look as much fun. And it's hard for us to enjoy that. Is there any way with the 1.0s, the Finch 1.0, can I still use Scratch 2.0? Is Scratch 2.0 still out there?
You can use Scratch 2.0 offline, so that's going to be an option for your MacBooks. It's not going to be an option for your Chromebooks.
Yeah.
With your Chromebooks, you'd have to use Scratch X, which works, you know, but it doesn't look quite as sharp as Scratch 2.0 offline.
Yeah.
I should add that technically, we have the capability to work with Scratch 3. We're waiting on some approvals from the Scratch team in order to add our extension.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't give you an exact timeline, but I do want to say that with Finch 2.0, we are planning on making that Scratch 3 compatible.
But not the 1.0.
The 1.0, there's no plans at this point.
No plans.
Yeah.
I wish I knew before my PTA got me this Finch robots to get me the 2.0, not the 1.0. I mean, the 1.0 also, I'm finding with the USB cable, you're kind of restricted in what you can do too. A lot of times I find that the robot last week, it wouldn't run its program correctly because it was just like tangled up in the USB cable, or I wasn't holding the USB cable up and high enough to make it move. It's just frustrating. Yeah,
the cable is something we got a lot of notes on. It was the best solution at the time Finch 1.0 was created in 2009. It's no longer the best solution, which is why we've moved towards Bluetooth.
Yeah.
So how long have you had those Finch 1.0 for?
We've had them since the PTA bought them for me back in July,
Okay,
but I just started using them last week.
totally. Now,
Like fresh out of the box.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
got a bunch of them. I'm just very, very frustrated. I actually sent an email to Birdbrain Technologies telling them I'm really not happy with the product. It was really, really very frustrating last week. I spent probably about 45. It was an hour computer science class from 3 to 4, and I couldn't do anything with the kids until about 3:45. We were there for 45 minutes trying to make these things work properly.
Yeah. What was the holdup kind of more on the technical end, or do you think it was? Yeah,
on the technical end.
So what I can say is that there is a 1-year return policy on these, and you're definitely within that.
Yeah.
And while I'd of course want to encourage you to return those Finch 1s and hold off for the Finch 2s. Those Finch 2s are going to be released next spring. That's our window for release on those. It works it uses a similar system to Scratch 3.0 and the microbits. So I don't know if you've been playing with those two systems together, but if your systems are working well with Scratch 3.0 and the microbits, I would imagine that you're gonna be able to transition just fine into the 2.0s.
I'd be much happier with the 2.0 after what I just saw. I mean, my students actually use Dash and Dot robots where we do like a Wonder League program, and they're Bluetooth and they're really cool. And 1 second. And it's hard for me to go from that to a Finch 1.0. I didn't know a lot about the Finch 1.0. My PTA got it for me.
Yeah.
So I want to return them. I really.
Sure. Nope. That's understood. We've been trying to sort of adapt to the changing landscape of CS tools and physical computing tools. I think this is going to definitely put us in the same league with something like Dash and Jots. I think well beyond when you consider that this is actually you could actually use this with a whole bunch of programming languages, including Java and Python when your students are ready.
Yeah. All right, Matthew. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And I'm sorry for the frustration. I'm happy to continue to troubleshoot what's going on with your 1.0s, but it sounds like for a range of reasons, 2.0 might be the place to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely just reach out to me. My email there is kelsey@birdbraintechnology. Let me get on camera. kelsey@birdbraintechnologies.com, and I will connect you directly with our team to make all that happen. And yeah, we'll get you situated and see what we can do for you for switching out your Finch 1.0s. So awesome.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. It was really nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you. Have a good night.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions that they have, or are we about ready to sign off for the day? If you have any questions, you can just unmute yourself and ask those as well. Kate says, please never make the Finch 2.0 as creepy as Dash.
Thank you.
Here, will do. Finch Colors. Oh, yeah. So the Hummingbird cases come in both this turquoise color and orange and purple, which are our 3 colors. And I believe the Finch colors are going to come in that as well. There's going to be orange, turquoise, and purple. Right now, there's some really crazy colored ones running around the office because it's like whatever filament we had for a 3D printer. But I think we'll have the turquoise, orange, and purple for the different colors of Finch. Yeah. All right. Looks like we have Pavel joining us. We're actually just finishing up our webinar this evening, Pavel, but we will definitely send out, it was from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock Eastern time today, so I apologize if you got the time confused on that one, but we're gonna send out a recording of this webinar as well tomorrow so that you can watch it if you would like. So since you're signed in, I assume we have your email. That means you registered and you got the link to be here. So since we have your email, we'll follow up with an email tomorrow so that you can watch this webinar. All right. All right. Kate and Luba and Pavel, it was so great to see all of you. And Kate, I'll follow up with you with an email tomorrow as well. Thank you so much for your participation and for your wonderful classroom activities that you shared too. Those are great. All right. See you, everybody. Bye. Bye. Okay, where'd my mouse go?